Oh, and we're in. We're in. That were easy, right? Compared to yesterday.
Compared to yesterday, mate. Download apps on multiple devices, counting to 10 seconds, thinking we've made it, and then the killer dead tone coming in. We tried though, mate. We tried.
We did.
What's better is I can see your face today. We've gone full Skype, so that's good.
My ungroomed lockdown face.
Listen, we're all going a bit. This is the hairiest I've ever been, mate. Look at that. Look at that.
The real men come out in lockdown. So how are you doing today anyway, Brian?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. All the better for speaking to you, obviously. That was a little bit of anticipation yesterday over hearing Danny Missin, but we got there in the end. So yeah, good to do it at last.
And you know what? It finally gave me the kick up the bum that I needed, because I wasn't really planning on going video until I had my studio, so I could get the camera set up and actually record a conversation. But I figured, probably a bit of, a shameless act, but I get to get it across more media outlets now. So I'll be launching the YouTube channel today and just doing random stuff on it, I suppose. I won't be playing no guitar.
So in about 10 years' time, when you are the UK's Joe Rogan with 6 million downloads, they'll jump back to the first video episode. And it'll be me, mate. Me staring at Bryan Lacey, staring at your face. That's good.
There you go. I could have had someone like Connor Halliday, but he's got this really long head, and I don't think his camera's got the capabilities of getting his entire face on screen.
Listen. I've got to tell you this, mate. Though Connor Halliday, first of all, beautiful human being.
Yes.
But, if we were to have a head off, as I'll call it that, the Lacey head is famous for being ridiculously big. So we've all got massive heads in my family. So we can't wear Christmas hats. It's true. We're the family that when you put it on, you hear that embarrassing tear. So we've got a bit of a thing when we go to like work stews or anything like that, where everyone pops the crackers. There's that, and then at the last day of my school, do you know everyone writes on T-shirts and your shirt and all that?
Yeah.
So I went round thinking I was getting lots of nice comments, and everybody was giggling, and I didn't know why. And I was getting off the bus, and then my mum met me at the shop, and she said, "You know what someone's written on the back of your shirt?" And just a massive arrow pointed to my head. Just look at the size of this kid's cradle. That's it. That is it,
that's wonderful.
Connor Halliday's long face ahead is nothing compared to the sheer bulk. I don't know if you can get a
look at that.
The circumference, mate, as well. It's a monster head. I will tell you that.
You see, mine's right flat at back. I think my mum were a bit lazy when I was younger. She just left me laying down all the time. My brother's got a beautiful hook to his, but no, I've just got. My brother calls me bullet head. My son calls me pea head because I can fit in his hats.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Wait till he's 14 and then compare that to the names he calls you then, mate. Let's see how that goes.
I told him for his 18th birthday, only reason I'm still training is because I'm going to knock him unconscious on his 18th birthday. The amount of nut shots I've taken over the last 3 or 4 weeks, mate, is unreal. Every time I walk into a room, bam, cracked at knackers. It's just...
Well, this is the thing. I've got a daughter. She's 6 now, but there's there was a stage where she was sort of going from toddler into kid, and she had that little growth spurt. So she used to do the run up and jump and all that. But there was a point where her body was the exact length for when she ran and jumped. The legs would just swing. What's the Newton cradle? Basically, she would quite literally kick it.
Those things you get in office.
That's right. King. Mine make a much duller sound now, mate, and I need to get them checked, to be honest. But but there was a point where I suddenly realised I'm going to have to wait till you've grown a little bit more till we can go back to doing that. But now she's at a height where she's longer now, so it's not as bad. So there you go.
Oh my goodness, kids! I could tell some stories about mine, but I'd have to put it on explicit. So they are the biggest love in my life, but they are also the biggest daily pain in my life. And I'm surprised I've not gone grey yet. I've got to thank my dad for that. Good genetics. My dad's 50 odd and he's still knocking out kids. This is, I thought
knocking them out punching or knocking them out as in
a Yorkshire thing. He's It's like a production line of children.
Nice,
Okay, the
nice.
Missin family name, unfortunately for some, is going to live on for a very long time.
Do you know what? There's that thing where they talk about Genghis Khan, which was the biggest conqueror of the planet.
Yeah.
And apparently, there's if you still test people for DNA, he raped and pillaged that much and covered enough territory that I think something like 75% of humans will have some Genghis Khan in them somewhere. And I'm just seeing, as the evolution of human beings go on, the Missin gene clashing with the Genghis Khan somewhere along the way.
Oh,
some peanut-headed warriors coming out and taking over the planet, mate.
Like I said, it's so weird. I'm the only peanut-headed one. Everybody else has got a nice shaped head, but there's me, and I don't know. I'll probably see a really
punches though. Better for slipping punches.
That's it. But people are getting reflex balls now. Them things that they tie to the thing. It's specific training for me. If they can hit one of them, they can take me out. This is why I need to retire. But no, I tell you what, my dad's some human. He were wicked at Taekwondo back in the day. And he had, if you want for the type of man he was, right, my dad was a very man's man.
Okay.
And he got to a stage in Taekwondo where he were like, he could have gone the whole distance. In his first couple of years, he'd won British Open, Welsh Open, everything you could think of. The only time he finished second was when he got annoyed with somebody's long legs and he ridge-handed him, which is an illegal maneuver, but he dislocated the guy's jaw and knocked him unconscious. So it was like, that was the only time he fell second.
Which is really a first, though, isn't it, mate? Look at that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, if you're getting your first place trophy delivered to an hospital while you're unconscious on a drip, right, you're going to be reevaluating a few things.
Eating soup for the rest of the year as well, and that's God, big up.
But
Missin, then.
It were wicked, and then he came to me. So he's just gone 56 now, and he came to me, 54-year-old, and he goes. He's always said if MMA was, at the forefront of everybody's kind of like viewing pleasure back when he was younger, that's what he'd have done. He wasn't shy to a bit of a street fight. But he said to me, he goes, I want to do one of those white collar events. Can you train me up? And I said, okay, we've got a bit to do. And he's wicked with his footwork. I mean, I used to see him making a cuppa in kitchen and he'd be there in sidekick position, turning light switch on and off with his toes. Like, just repetitive like movement. And but very, very Taekwondo-esque. They like to keep at that leg range. So they're not too bothered about all this that we're bothered about. Yeah. So it was hard to get him boxing. He wanted to box. He didn't want to do the MMA thing. He wants to do that another time. But he wanted to box first of all. And I said, well, that's great because I want to set you a decent foundation with your footwork and so on and so forth. So I trained him up. And he gets matched up against somebody who's two fights and undefeated. Now, I don't fully agree with the whole white collar setup. Sure. And I think you should probably do one. Maybe two. And then if you're looking to kind of pursue it, maybe get into some unlicensed boxing, fair matches, etc. Yeah. But this guy was 2-0, and he was 28-year-old. And about a week, I'd seen this guy's video, and about a week before, I knew my dad, he has this awful right hand, and I mean awful in the best way. It's like the kind of right hand that I would fear. It's a body shot right hand. Okay. And I was like, right, okay, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna jab, cross, we're gonna slip, go to the body, come back up to the head, but we're gonna step through on the right leg. So I couldn't corner him because it's off charity and they've got their own corner. So I'm there like 2 tables back shouting to him, and I'm like, right. Jab, slip, rip to the body, jab, slip. Second round, bang, 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 bang. He finished him with a body uppercut. Caught him on the way down with the uppercut to the head. Obviously, he was mid-flow and I'd literally drilled this combo into him off his footwork cell. And he caught him with the uppercut coming on, threw a left hook in for good measure. I'm like, oh my goodness. This guy hit the floor, jumped up, holding his stomach, didn't know whether he wanted to stand up, keel over, threw his helmet off and goes, no, I've had enough and got out at ring.
Oh, man.
And I was like, 54-year-old, my dad's just like done a 28-year-old. And don't get me wrong, it would a wicked do for him and it were a nice father-son moment. But, them genetics in the Missin side of things, they seem to be fairly strong. I think I'm like, I don't know. I reckon at 40-year-old, 50-year-old, you'll see me having another baby or something. But yeah, full head of hair. You know, my granddad were a boxer as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know of Richard Dunn?
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah,
Of course.
he fought Muhammad Ali. It without spectacular, but he's got his own sports centre in Bradford. But at the time, we were like, local big boy.
Richard Dunn's, of course. I used to go there.
Yeah.
Mate. I grew up in Huddersfield, so
Yeah.
I
Well,
know
my
Richard
granddad
Dunn.
did as well. We're from Huddersfield. Yeah, we're from Marsh area.
Okay, Home Firth is my side.
Oh, Home Firth. Oh, the posh side.
Yeah. You mean nearly all of our teeth? That's as posh as it gets, mate.
No, but it's still Huddersfield, isn't it? But my granddad knocked Richard Dunn out and his bouncer in a bar, and it's still a story told around to this day.
Wow.
If you go into a pub and you're known as a Missin, it's like, oh, you know, Big Fred Missin, don't you? And it's crazy.
That's
Big
quality,
Fred Missin.
mate.
It were back when bare knuckle boxing was kind of, it was what it was, and it was more like the whole travellers culture and stuff like that.
Yeah,
My granddad were king at cobbles, so I come from a fighting family. You know what I mean?
I love it.
It's
king of the cobbles as well. It just rolls off the tongue, isn't it? That's nice.
If you saw the size of his hands, we've taken a step backward each generation, because my granddad was this massive door frame of a man. Right, his hands were like, he could grab my head like a basketball. My dad, he's fairly big. I think he's scraping 6 foot, pretty built. And then there's me that's like 5'5", and gradually the decline of man, if you look for it.
Evolution going backwards. In
yeah.
The house.
So
you've got that photo done, mate. You should impose it like the monkeys going forward, the apes, Homo sapiens. You should reverse it.
Make a decent family picture, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's good. Mate. What's your kid called then? We've got Big Fred. What's your dad called?
My dad's called Carl.
Carl, proper men's names as well.
Danny,
proper man's name.
What's
your kid called?
Well, then we've got Charlie and Benjamin.
That's good names, mate.
Yeah.
Good names. If we had a boy, we were going to go Charlie as well, mate. That was going to be us. Yeah.
Charlie's all right. Charlie's 6-year-old, and I think at 5 he had his debut kickboxing bout as well. So he's it's just something natural. I think there's something in
That's
gene
good
pool.
though. I like it though, because I think having something, especially young lads, I think it's good to have that sort of outlet. I think it's good to burn your energy in that way, and in a way as well, where you'll learn discipline, you'll learn all the stuff that comes with it, and also be able to handle yourself. Schools are horrible, the world's horrible, and just to be able to look after yourself as a young man or a young lady, that's an awesome thing. Do you teach him?
I do, yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons why I started teaching juniors. I did a bit of a knockabout at adults, passed on the knowledge that I could. I was that guy that, say, I'd go into a club, I'd do a bit of training, there'd be a, young up-and-comer, I'd be able to share some stories, pass on some knowledge, let him know about the things he should be training now as opposed to wait until he goes pro, etc. And it started to really improve my game, breaking down, the fundamentals.
I bet.
And then my kid, Charlie, eldest, so he's 6. I think at about 4-year-old, he saw one of my fights. I think his mum had stuck in one of my DVDs. And it wasn't a crazy bloody fight or out like that, but I think it was my 2nd or 3rd pro fight. And then next day, I heard this. And making his way into the ring. And he came out in an unzipped hoodie with no top underneath. Thingy up, my gloves on, right? Came walking out right mean. And I was just like, yeah, this kid wants to do it. So I started taking him up pads and whatnot. And then he started telling people at school. And then it all just rolled over from there. And I was like, you know what? I'm DVS checked. I got, every bit of insurance I need. Why not? And from there on, it travelled like wildfire. We've got a decent team round here now. Charlie's absolutely smashing it at school. He never had the confidence. He was his biggest worst enemy, I think. He always doubted himself. I can't do it while he was doing it. And it's just like, since then, he's absolutely smashing it. Head Teachers Awards, Star at Week, you name it. And it just goes to show that firsthand. I never did it as a kid. I didn't get into it until I was 20.
Yeah.
So I never saw that, at school. But it was great kind of seeing Charlie really come out of his shell, because we know as parents what a great guy he was.
Yeah.
But, kids the weird in social situations.
Totally, because they're put in a pack. They're put in a pack, and we are animals basically. And we've got to figure out where we fit, and we're worried what people think. And that guy's wearing this, or they say that, or he's done. It all matters, and this is a bit of martial arts that like I never had it either. My dad was in the army, so he was like a man's man. My mum was Irish Catholic, and she was always very scared of boxing or very scared of combat sports. So she would rather than us do that, she'd like us to do something else. So we did scouts and all that sort of stuff. But like, I remember I got boxing gloves and I was in the back garden. There was just a kid a year older than us, and we basically put one glove on each hand. He had one, I had one. We went in the back garden and we're slugging it out. But I remember my mum was quite scared of that. I remember him, Jamie Sykes, and so then we were sort of pushed away from it as if it was just a sport for bad people, as in like, only if you're aggressive or only if you're a fighter. But the thing that people don't get, and it's one of the things that's getting easier now, I think, it's because it's becoming more common martial arts. I think there's so many schools and so many promotions and stuff. It's still got the stigma attached, but people don't understand how good it is. We're not just talking physically, but mentally. That is one of the biggest things. And with young people that have got confidence issues, I know people have turned their lives around massively from being off the rails to going into a gym. They still have to apply themselves. Sometimes they've had to be dragged down there every week and forced to do it to the point where they don't enjoy it. But you look at them 3 years, 4 years later, and they're reaping the benefits of feeling confident, expelling that energy, especially young boys. That's something that is rife with young kids, young boys in packs of little lads. That confidence, that discipline, all the stuff that is untangible but matters so much when you grow up is massive.
Definitely. And I know you say about the young generation, but it has a knock-on effect, I believe. I've seen a fair few fighters from both boxing, kickboxing, MMA scene, and they've almost felt like they're coming out and admitting that something's not quite right up here. They have the self-doubts, they have the real bad anxiety issues and stuff, and I think that going through, I can only speak from an active fighter's perspective, but I believe going through the preparation for an active fight, being in the gym where there's that kind of camaraderie, that brotherhood, you see each other at your weakest, one day you're flying high in the gym, the next day you're getting put on your backside. And I believe all that then when you realise it, you start to realise what really matters. A lot of people who've never been in that situation walk around with their chest puffed out and think that, maybe appearance and what's the word?
That bravado that comes.
That all matters. And then when you've had, 10 bells of shit kicked out of you by your best mate in gym on a Monday,
by a 14-year-old
you realise that maybe that doesn't matter. And then you start to look at the wider spectrum of things like, okay, now I've got that confidence to say, hey, I've got a problem, or hey, I've got an issue. Yeah. And then you start to see almost like this, it's like a vacuum, you're the centre. And always people come in and go, we've got your back, mate. You know what I mean? I'm seeing that a lot. Connor Halliday again. I hate mentioning his name. No, I'm always playing. He did one, a little documentary about mental health. And I was on it because I've had, I've kind of gone through the whole dealing with I had really bad social anxiety, believe it or not, fighting in front of how many people. And I had really terrifying social anxiety to the point where I something had to give. And I went the right way and I got the help and stuff. And, I pass my message on to others if they want to hear it.
Sure.
And I've always got that open door policy for anybody who wants to chat to me. But Connor did a good documentary. Just going through different, whether it be jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, fighter, coach's perspective, etc. Just talking about, how people deal with things. And I think it was around the time of that creation of mind mats, if you've heard of mind mats.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of an Andy's man's club. but it gets people onto the mats doing something productive like jiu-jitsu or something like that.
Great.
And yeah, I just think that it kind of opens so many doors, just having that confidence in, if you can go out there and there's nothing given. Every fighter says he's going to win. Every fighter says he's going to win. Second round knockout.
Best shape of my life.
Nobody knows that.
Never felt
best
as
shape
good.
of your life. I mean, seriously, I've been in best shape of my life about 50 times now. But it's like every fighter, because they've got to develop that self-belief, almost like you're fighting alter ego. But I just feel like that there, once you go through all that and stuff, and you can get into a ring, and that there is a chance I'm going to get knocked out here in front of everybody, then you start to realize that true inner strength that you have.
And
you're like, the world's bigger than fighting. I learned so much about my life myself, about the people around me, how I view people, and just through a lot of lessons learned where my opponent's wearing some gloves and kicking shout. How are you going to handle yourself in a defeat? How are you going to handle yourself in a win? How are you going to handle yourself in front of 500 people, 10,000 people? How how are you going to handle yourself? Social media is a cruel place.
Yes, of course.
You're not everybody's cup of tea. I've got my fans, but people will jump on board and go, mate, you shit, I've seen you get battered. And it's like, yeah, but you've seen me batter someone else. How are you going to handle that? How are you going to deflect? Are you going to, embrace a joke before you become the joke? Are you going to become the joke?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
it teaches you so much.
It's true. And I think it's hard to describe that to people. It's hard for people outside the sport who don't know people in it. Even just when you go to some of these shows, mate, as well. What I've always found is the closer you get to the cage, the more amazing the humans are that are there. And then we're very close to the sport. You fight, commentate. I get to sit cage side, and it's spectacular. You feel it, but then occasionally you'll turn around and there'll be someone offering bombs on Charlie.
Punch it off!
Punch him in the face. Cheers, mate. Thanks for that. But
I've been training all wrong.
Brilliant. Whoa, nailed it, mate. Nailed it. But it's very hard to describe to people what that gives you, and that changes your perspective on life completely, I imagine, with and even finding out what you're like in a moment when you're under pressure, or when you've taken a big shot and you're having to recover, or you go into survival mode. That's something that only a small percentage of human beings will ever have felt or learnt from or benefited from. And it's weird to say benefited, because you think getting smacked in the liver or in the chops is not something you can learn a lot from, but it's better than people think.
It is, and I can happily say that I have traded, probably 2-3 dozen brain cells for inner peace and happiness. In the end of it all, it's a crazy old world. Is the whole fight game? There's a lot of characters in that as well, and I think yourself being in the media part of that, you're gonna see characters at their finest, where they're ready to talk, where they've prepared a little speech in their head and stuff, and it's not really them. And I think you personally, like when I first spoke to you, I just had to be me, and I think people realise that I am who I am. I don't have this character, in the cage, outside of the cage, on the mic, or out like that. I say daft shit, and if it gets a laugh, cool. If it gets me shouted at, cool. It sells a fight, doesn't it? But I just think that you're in this like really, really special kind of place where it's mad that you could probably look at someone and go, you're not really like that in real life, but you're hyping up that fight as much as they are, and these people get a bad rep. Like totally. I remember a while back, like Dominic Wooding, everyone like, oh, you're cocky, you're arrogant and stuff like that. Sure. I bet he's sound. I bet if he saw an old lady crossing the street, he'd help her with her bags, you know what I mean?
100%.
And you get to sit there and see that and talk to these people, and
I also get to see this is something I've always respected about you and what you bring to a show. Because when matchmakers or promoters bring somebody onto a show, it's great if you can sell a few tickets. It's great if you put on a good fight. Super, that's amazing. But understanding the game as well, understanding that there is a bit about you've got to try and sell it, or you've got to. And it's not about being fake. It's that you can be, if you want, you could be your Kobe Covingtons, and you can go completely heel and make up these characters. But I remember with the Aby fight with ACB 70. Like, you gave so much when you didn't need to for the promo. Hello, mate. Hello. Look at that.
He's running in and pinching somewhere.
Hey, that was, we didn't even see you. Look at that. Good
cameo.
Good footwork. But I remember that, and I respected that a lot, because it was and it was probably, and that card was amazing. That was look at who was on card there. Kane, Musa, Alex Enland, Scott Askham, Luke Barnett. Loads of fights, some international fighters in there as well. But I think were you third or fourth or fifth on the
I think
card?
we were second on main card.
Card.
When it went live, with streaming and telecast and stuff like that, we were second. I think we were just after or just before Jordan Vucinic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Shai Yusuf, that was what a fight that was as well. What a fight that was. But your fight, with all those names on there that have been UFC and title holders in other places, your fight with AB was probably one of the most anticipated. I think that's credit. Look at that, mate. They're still coming in. How many kids have you got? Because I've seen 3 or 4 run in there.
Oh, it's just 2. It's just one's really, really fast. But it went. That was a crazy old time, that as well. And my favourite part of all that was what are they up to? Right, come on, lads, out now. Go bother your mum. She loves it.
This is lockdown, though, mate. I'm surprised I've not had a dog run in, or my wife, or my daughter run in yet. So.
Tell me about it. I was doing a video PT session over there, and this woman goes down, does mountain climbing, stands up, and my son's there with his big long hair, like in camera. But I think my favourite point of that whole ACB thing was, they tried to break me, did his fans, and it were all banter, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm the only person who's ever broken me were Paddy Pimblett in amateur days. He was the only person who got into me, and I said never again, and that made me stronger. And they posted, I missed weight by a few pounds. I'd been in sauna for about an hour, and I got back on scales, and I'd not lost anything. It were the weirdest situation ever. And that was in the early days of my medication. I knew it were going to retain a bit of water, but I thought, if I don't take anything, I can lose it, right? Yeah, more for me. So they posted my sponsorship banner with like KFC on and all that. So I was walking through town. I instantly ran to nearest KFC, went in, got a burger, didn't eat it at all. Got a burger, ran outside KFC, really pushed my belly out and got my mate to take a picture of it. And it was just like, I think it was Aaron. It might have been Aaron. No, it might have been Aaron. I think Aaron said to me that I sold more tickets for him, because people wanted to come along, and it was almost like they were getting on board against, like, who's good, who's bad, oh, boo, cheer, you're a pantomime. But totally. The noise when we walked out were wicked.
It was spectacular, mate. And the fight was great as well. Solid fight, mate. Solid fight.
I'm really glad it went 3 rounds, especially after that first one, because I never wanted, boys, time to go downstairs now. Come on. Go and play your game then. It's okay. Right, but what were I saying? So
glad it went 3 rounds.
I'm glad it went 3 rounds, because the first one, that was the fight. I've not really ever said this to anybody, especially not on a live thing, but I know it affected him, that first fight, a lot, and it wasn't until nearing the second fight that I realised just how much. And anybody who knows me knows, I'll talk the talk, but I'll also get in there and walk the walk. If I say I'm going to fight someone, I'll get in there and fight someone. If I say anything bad, or even if it's a mishap, I expect him to say something bad back, and I can take it on chin. But I didn't realise just how much it had affected him until nearing the fight. And I think you and Frank Mir did a few bits with him. And it really opened my eyes, because I'm thinking, my goodness, it affected him as much as it affected me, because from my standpoint in that first fight, I was genuinely scared. I didn't sleep right for weeks afterwards.
Wow.
And I lost my killer instinct. And I still
Yeah.
think to this day that I haven't got that killer instinct. I'd go into a fight and I'd just say, it's kill or be killed. And I know that seems a bit extreme, but, you know, that was my mindset. That's what I trained for. After that, I never had that. I had this fear. I had this fear of, I knew what I was capable of. And I started training in a sense. Like, I had a bit of time out after that one. I had an operation, but I'm kind of glad I had the operation, because even though I was physically in shape for the fight that was coming up, I was never mentally there.
Wow.
And it hurt. It hurt to know that I'm actually capable of doing that to someone.
Yeah. That's fascinating, because you obviously, we just talked about your heritage, and you got the fighters in your family and your blood, and it is a thing you think would be common sense that you would, if you're on the outside watching, if you get into a cage and you fight somebody, there's a possibility of hate. Of course, it's competition, but it's a combat sport. Joe Rogan describes it as mental chess with severe physical possible dire physical consequences. But to hear that you're in there, and from a win, from doing that, that you question that's because you won't be the only one either. That's
no.
And I think that can be a little bit to do, because you're intelligent. You're obviously intelligent, but I think maybe sometimes people can be too clever. They can be too aware of the reality of it. So that's fascinating.
And it really. I reached out to him after the fight and asked him if we were okay. And going back to that first initial fight, I think I'd ripped his ear or something with an elbow, and he were getting that stitched up. He had one across his eye, and I saw he was on his own. And he had a couple of guys in his corner. I'm not going to mention names because I'm not, I'm past that war. I don't want to have wars with people anymore. Just a nice game. Just a nice game of FIFA. That'll be good. But I saw him on his own, and I thought, this isn't right. And I went over and I sat with him, and, while he got those stitches, and I made sure he were okay. And I sat there for weeks. And I mean, it still happens time to time now, when you get carried away with your own thoughts. And I think, if I'd have not been aware, and being able to switch back to that, humane person, the non-fighter, because I had to in the cage.
Yeah, of course.
I could have killed him, because I got up because I was hearing, in the position I have him in half guard, and I'm dropping elbows, and I heard a groan, and I looked down, and I could see the white. I could see pretty much his eyes were white, like I could see, and they were flickering. And I stood up, and I instantly said to ref, "He's done." And he got up. And don't get me wrong, the whole debate was, I slipped on blood. Aaron Aby, and this is one thing that people are only just starting to realise about Aaron Aby is too tough for Aaron Aby. Right? That guy is one of the toughest people alive.
For what he's lived through and what he's come through.
And what he's still going through, and what he does while he's going through it. What can you say about that man that ain't being said? That night he was too tough for himself, because, he may have slipped in blood getting up, but the second one, he clearly stumbles halfway across the cage and goes face first. And I was terrified. I instantly left the cage, and not through being an hard man or being pissed off or anything. I instantly left the cage, and I was just like, shit. Like, what have I done? Like, will he fight again? I'm thankful that he did, and that the damage wasn't that good. But in the moment, you can't see the future out like that. And it really bothered me. So then when I heard that, obviously he was beat up about a loss, but obviously he was quite beaten up as well. That's the nature of the beast. To hear that he wouldn't leave the house for weeks or out like that. And it's like, dude, me and you are so much more alike.
Yeah.
I mean, in certain terms, you know, in the
Yeah,
way
of
his brain
course.
processes things. That guy, I told him, I said, I'm getting a what would Aaron Aby do on my wrist? You know, I said, well, what would Jesus do? Because, you know, we've had different struggles. Don't get me wrong, his struggles way outweigh mine, but I think it's down to the person and how they deal with it.
Yeah.
As a person, that guy's tough as old boots.
Yeah.
Do you know? And
Yeah.
yeah, man, it was a crazy one, but I'm just so glad that at the end of it all, I can say, like, when that fight went the full 3 rounds, on 2 occasions he brought the best out of me.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I believe that second fight, there'll be no bigger fight for him, no bigger victory
He
for
was
him based on the first one.
very motivated for that. You could tell that. And that you mentioned before, because the other thing with that fight is that first fight, social media, like the videos that went round and all that. And that's a new angle to the game. Like we talk about, your dad mentioned if MMA was rife when he was in his prime. But now it's not just a case where you have to deal with whatever the loss or going home, whatever. You turn your Facebook on and you've got however many notifications you're tagged in, Twitter or whatever else that comes with it. It's crazy that those moments hang in the air forever now, mate. That's
It's like it's got to a point now, because that first fight made, like, you know, a load of top sportsmanship kind of moments lists. And great. I'm glad that fight was recognised for that. But, you know, the internet's a very easy place to navigate. And all you have to do is go, oh, that looked good. Let's look at the original fight. You know, and these things pop up and, oh, yeah, Danny Missin and Aaron Aby. I just untag myself now. Because
lessons learned. There you
I'm
go.
glad people have got something good to say about how I handled myself in the first fight. And I very much believe that Aaron's the kind of person that if shoe went on other foot, he'd do the same. Because, you know, it's a sport. Nobody wants to die or be seriously injured. But it is a reminder to me of what I've had to go through the last God knows how many years to get over the fact that could have happened. Never mind him. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got to be feeling the same when he sees it. But, you know, obviously after the second fight, he can sit there and go, yeah, well, I got him in the end. Oh, man. But anyway, so enough about that. I learned a very interesting fact about the Bryan Lacey.
Go on.
So,
speaking of the internet, what have you Googled this time?
Well, let me just get this picture up. So, obviously, I know you from an MMA standpoint. We've covered that.
Sure.
You know, I met you at ACB 70. When everybody in the building and the hotel hated me because of what was going on with me and Aaron, and you came out of this bright light like the angel you are, and started speaking to me, and I was just like, oh, cool. I don't even think I got your name the first time we spoke. We were just like, we just hit it off and started chatting.
That's right.
And ever since then, I think you commentated my last MMA fight where Aaron Robinson fight UK. UKFC.
UK Fighting Championship. They won't mind. That's all good.
No, you got your shout out, guys. But you commentated my last fight. I got to come up and have a chat with you beforehand.
It was good to see you as well, mate. That was the other thing, because like when you talk about the ACB 71, there was a lot of, because there's a lot of the people there were obviously with Aaron Aby because of they're part of his camp and.
And I think Carl Prince were a big part in the matchmaking or something along the lines.
He was the main matchmaker for that. So and you look at that card, and it was. But it was. I do remember that because there was a lot of, because obviously there's lots of interviews with you guys, and I did like a phone one where you spoke with each other. I appreciated what you put into that. So I consciously, as soon as I knew you were there, and I wanted to come and say hello because you'd done a lot for that fight. It wasn't just the fact it was the rematch and all that. So it was good, but then obviously we hit it off there, and then I didn't see you for ages, and then at UKFC you were on that card, and we had a big old hug and a catch up.
Man,
it was good, mate, because it was genuine. What I thought right from the start, I think you are value for any show, because first of all your fights are always exciting, but secondly you do the other bit. and that not everyone does. And being involved in shows, I appreciated that you felt like you were coming into enemy territory.
Yeah.
You came in with a smile on your face, jabbering as much as you could. But it was good. So yeah.
But then I see this little video online the other night with somebody who looks just like you with a guitar in his hands.
There it
says,
is. There it is.
Yeah, the wonderful guitar.
The instrument.
This is Bryan Lacey, comedian, and I'm like, now it all makes sense. You know, you're a very intelligent guy. You're very funny. You're very warm. So you tick all the right boxes. Like, give me a little bit of that. Like, what got you into that?
Well, do you know what, mate? It's quite weird because I've done comedy for 12 years, 30, more than that now. Yeah, 13 years, so a long time. I've done MMA for 4 or 5.
Right.
So it's comedy was where I started. That's what I always did. But it's funny that you say you don't know I was a comedian, because sometimes after my shows, the audience still don't know that. So that's quite they're as shocked as you when the show's over that I was actually one of the acts. But no, so it was comedy that got me into MMA. So I was always into combat sports, always loved it. It was the only thing that I really watched. I used to be mad on football as well, but since I've done MMA and commentary, that's just faded into the distance. But while I was a comedian, what I noticed is there was a lot of other comics that were either into MMA or they did a martial art of some sort. So I started just doing a podcast with comedians, talking about fighting, and from there it kind of spiraled in. But comedy is comedy was another job that I sort of fell into. I did it as a hobby. I went to London. I lived there for a while, and while I was there, I went to some open spots and I watched it, and I thought, you know what, I reckon I can have a go at this. So I started doing 5 minutes, and then as you do your 5, you get addicted to it, and you start going around the open mics, and there's some shitty rooms in that world, mate. So you're going into these really little pubs and clubs and restaurants and going wherever I'll have you, and then you just get addicted to it. I'm sure it's like you in training, when you suddenly start getting a little bit good at it, or you enjoy it, or it gives you another side to your life. And then from there it just kind of happened, and then it wasn't intentional. I didn't start out thinking I want to be a comedian. I'm not one of those guys that I didn't even know it could be a job. I had no idea. And so I just started doing the pubs and clubs, and then you get booked and you get longer sets, and then you move up the bill, and then you end up getting paid for it. People stupidly give you money for it, and then it becomes your life. And it's the same with the MMA commentary stuff. I just did that as a hobby alongside being a comedian, and then from that, now that spiraled off into another world of beautiful madness.
I tell you, right, your Facebook, when lockdown is not in progress, your Facebook is like a needy single mother's Facebook, checked in here, checked in there. Why, what's up, bud? But yours is like flying here, flying there. Like, seriously, I look and I think, I can't even get it. I can't even afford a bus sometimes. Like, this guy's flying all over the world.
I feel lucky, mate. I never take it for granted, and I miss it in lockdown. I miss it a lot. Like, it's great being with the family, and I'm loving that, and the time at home, not having to pack a suitcase, all that. But then I get how lucky I am to fly to these shows and to see fights and to be part of that world, because
definitely.
I'm not a fighter. I'm not, but to be that close to a sport I love, and people don't get it. A lot of people get, especially with MMA, with the cage and elbows and whatever else comes with it, they kind of get put off it before they even try it. And for me, there's something magical when you see somebody in a position you couldn't imagine being in. You think there's no way out, and they find something. They find something, and you feel it. So with both comedy and with MMA, I feel lucky that I've done them. I never take them for granted, and in all the other jobs I've had in my life, sales and whatever else, running a pub and restaurants and all this sort of stuff. I've never worked as hard as I have comedy or MMA. So I think that says what it means to me.
Yeah, and I do think when you find your calling, or it might be accidental, you may stumble up on it. But like you say, you do it a bit more, you become addicted, so you do it a bit more, and you do it a bit more than that, and then you go through that whole, oh my god, I burnt myself out, but then you get back on the horse and you find a better way to do it and stuff like that. And I think when you do find your calling, like I couldn't picture you as anything other than the voice of MMA for me. Like I hear your voice, I think, yeah, he's calling a fight sort of thing.
Because... Someone's about to get hit in the face. What's going on?
But it's crazy that you mention all that. I mean, you fly about a lot, but I don't take notice of many people's posts. There's like probably a handful of people that take notice of the post. When I see something pop up from you, I always check it out. You seem like quite the loving family man, that like man of today sort of thing. So you're flying here, there, and everywhere. And I've got kids as well. I go to work, and I'm an hour late home, and I feel bad for them. You're on the other side of the world, and that's got to take its toll, man.
Yeah, do you know what? That's it. But it's one of those things that the life we've got is because of the sort of the work I do and the life we lead. So, but there's pluses and minuses. When I'm away, it's obviously made easier with stuff like FaceTime. There's also this amazing app now. So my daughter's 6, and like a big part of what we do together as father and daughter is I read to her a lot. So we do stories, Roald Dahl books, and so I make them as fun as possible. So while I'm away, my wife bought this little box called the Tony box, and it's got these little characters on top. And so when I'm away, I can get the app on my phone. I can make up a story. So I pretend to make up a story about when I was a little boy or when I whatever. And it's just something stupid. But then I'll record it and I'll put it on one of the characters. And when she goes to bed, she puts it on the box, and Daddy reads her a story before she goes to bed. So she.
Oh man, I'm gonna cry.
But you know what? We've got all these characters now, and they've got all these stories, and some of the stories are made up, but they're always from something. So same with comedy. There's like all my if you watch my comedy, they're all I'm story based. I'm not somebody who's like just a one-liner comic, or they're always stories, and it's always fraction of truth blown into ridiculousness. That's what the thing. Yeah. And the same with these stories with my daughter. So she's got all these ones about when Daddy got stuck in a lift, or just ridiculous stories. But it's a nice thing that now when I speak to her in the morning, so at breakfast when I phone her and I'm in wherever, Russia or Poland or wherever, she'll sit there and she'll say, "Daddy, did that really happen?" or whatever else. So although it's difficult, it's there's lots of these little things that make it easier. And the plus side is when I'm away for a weekend, so I'll be away for say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe once, twice a month. But the rest of the time I'm home. That's it. I'm dad. I'm home. So I'm there to pick her up from school or to do the bedtime story or all the others. So
you get that like big bulk of time, or almost in exchange for it. It's like for me,
it's a mix. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, that's absolutely wicked. That like, I mean, it's hard having kids as it is. Like, it's a lovely blessing, but for me, I work a lot of unsociable hours. I train a lot of unsociable hours. I've knocked MMA on head now just because of the amount of training that has to go into it. I can't. But
also, look at who you were stepping in with as well, mate. Yeah. If you look at you don't take easy fights.
No.
Like Aaron Robinson, Lonnie Kavanagh, you fought him as well, haven't you?
Yep, I fought Rani Sadeh, I fought Shaj Hark, I fought Aaron Aby twice.
Mate, like there's I think also Lonnie Kavanagh, I think he is going to be one of the big ones to come out of Great Britain. I genuinely do. But so when you look at that and like you say, you can't. Those kids are training 2-3 times a day with no kids. No, they're at that age.
They live in the gym.
Yeah, they live in the gym. They don't have to pay. They live at home. So they don't have to pay for whatever else. So it's one of those.
But that's why I made the decision to kind of knock MMA on the head. I'll never say never, because, if a trilogy came up with Aaron Aby, I'm only playing, I love the guy. But if he did, I'd love to be part of that. I would love to be part of that.
Insert contract here.
Yeah. Check the link below to download your contract. No, and I mean that totally respectful this time. We've had us, we've had us paddy at each other and stuff like that. But I just think it makes for a good little. I think that's the only fight that I'd ever come back for, like to MMA, just because, we've had two, we've got one apiece. And it'd be nice to kind of like, that guy helped make my career.
The rubber match.
Yeah.
And
Not anything through.
Spite
I want to win it. It's in because I can deal with it being 1-1. I really can. But it'd be nice to someone who's had such an input, an effect on my career. And I feel like hopefully, the story of him from the first fight with me to the second fight, I hope that's done the same for him. At least spiritually, if not, I think that'd be a beautiful one to kind of. I won't step in there with him now because he's on the way up again and he's come back from his finger. I don't want to throw a spanner in works, even if I could. And the way my MMA career went, I don't deserve to be in there. But I've sacked off MMA for now, and never say never. Gone into kickboxing because I can give half the time there. And be a phenomenal kickboxer. It's one sport, you know what I mean?
So my Brad Pickett is obviously a good mate of mine, and he's gone to bare knuckle boxing. He's done that.
Yep.
Like, a lot of people were saying, but why would you go back to fighting? And he said, let me just break down what training is for MMA. So you got your wrestling class, you got your strength and conditioning, you got your jiu-jitsu, you got your sparring, you got your pad work, you got your road work, you got your diet tour, you got all these things to watch, and the amount of stress on your body from all of them is ridiculous. So wrestling is one of the most brutal sports out there. It just breaks your body. Whereas he said, but for a boxer, like I've got good hands. I can hit mitts. I can spar maybe once every 2 weeks maximum, and all I have to do is the road. I've got to be in shape to be able to have the output for whatever. Yep. So he said, I can enjoy this. I can do what I do. Yeah. But I'm not breaking my body. This and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And it's I think MMA guys more so. I'm not taking this away from your elite level boxers and kickboxers and all that kind of stuff, but they could get 4 days of training and work in a week, and some 4 decent sessions. One of them sparring session, maybe a conditioning session in there. So they could go Monday to Friday and have a weekend off. In MMA, you haven't got that. You don't. Your weekend, you've got a rehab session, you've got a Saturday session. It's simple. When that comes to a stop, the best way I can explain it is like a breakup. A breakup when you're on the receiving end of a breakup. And we've all been there, I hope. We're about to find some stuff out. So, say you're in love with someone, yeah?
Yeah.
And you don't see it coming and they go, this ain't working out.
Bye.
It's over. Do you stop loving that person?
It doesn't happen like that, mate. No chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you give up MMA and all the hours of the day, we're talking like 6 hours a day. In separate increments.
Yeah, different sessions.
You're talking about 6 hours a day, Monday to Friday. I'd do 3 hours probably over a Saturday, and then rehab on a Sunday. Yeah. Rest and relaxation. Maybe that was wrong, but it was right for the time when I was doing that. All of a sudden, that comes to an end. Do I stop loving fighting? Do I? Yeah. Okay, that's over. Now I'm a banker. No, it don't happen like that. You know what I mean? It's you've got to find.
Danny Missin as a banker would be great though. If you walk in, try and get your mortgage things while holding pads, that'll do.
Yeah, that's it. Anybody comes in trying to rob a bank, I'll just I don't know.
Liam Neeson.
Flying triangle.
But you're right, like that gap and that hole, and you see it so often with fighters where there's that gap and they can go off the rails very easily because it's part of your identity as well as the time that you spend on it, your vocation, your Monday to Friday, your whatever you want to call it, and then for it to disappear or even to be cut to a point where it's not what it was for you, or people don't see you as the same person. It's a brutal sport. Inwards, going into it and coming out of it, combat sports. But
I mean, leaving it, I just hope that everybody. I think it's nobody can ever say I don't care what people think. Okay, it's to a certain degree you do care about your reputation that you leave behind, your legacy. If to use a strong word, but I just hope that when I left, people saw I didn't dodge anybody. When I
Yeah.
was at my best, I was beating the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when I was at my worst, I didn't use that as an excuse to not fight the best.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I threw everything into it, you know, like, and I gave my all. And I feel like validating in the fact that whenever I left that cage, whether it were a casual fan, whether it were a fellow fighter, anything like that, I always had someone come up to me, shake my hand and say, thanks, man. Well done.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that, for me, that was the win there. Like, yeah, okay, I'd love to be undefeated and be in UFC and, you know, making Conor McGregor money. But sometimes you've just got to play your role in a sport. Not everybody's a superstar.
Yeah. Not everyone's
you know?
Man United, not everyone's
There
Real
you
Madrid,
go.
not all that. But there's still all these other leagues that come up and through it, and they're as valuable. That's
oh,
the
yeah,
roots
definitely.
of it.
Definitely.
But you talk about that thing of caring what people think, and that was I had blocks like that with comedy. I'd get very worried, and finding your feet in comedy is a strange thing because you put it all out there. You stand on the stage and you get instant feedback, and dying on your ass is like the worst feeling in the world. And in front of British audiences, it's even worse because British audiences love people to have a good gig and make them laugh till they cry. But one thing they love as well is watching a guy struggling on stage. So you get this thing, and a lot of people ask that. They say, "What's it like when you because anyone can die on stage. Anybody can." Like I've seen the way acts or gigs are generally broken up. If you go to a comedy club, there'll be 3 acts and a host. The host is a comedian as well. They bring it all together. They set the night up for each act. The opening act will be an established act, who's done the miles and who's proven. The middle act is usually a newer act, so it's called the sweet spot because the audience have got a few drinks in them. They've still got the concentration span. They'll probably do 10 minutes rather than 20 or 30. And then you've got your headline act. And on any night, in any room, despite the fact that middle act might have only been going for 2 months, there's a chance that he might hit it because of something in the room better than the headliner or the opener. You got there's no set formula to say I've completed comedy. You can't go and work on stage. But you do learn, and this is the thing, is how you bounce back from those bad gigs. So before, I used to drive home in the car from Newcastle back to London, no music on the radio, reliving it for 6 hours, just like what am I doing? And then the next few days you'll be making a sandwich, and suddenly you'll just stop and you'll think of that gig, and but then you learn, and you always care what people think. But you also know that you've had good gigs. The reason you're doing it and you're getting on these stages is because there's something there. So then you learn that it doesn't matter what people think. But all you got to do is make sure you decide which people opinion you actually care about.
That's
what they think. And once you've done that, once you've narrowed it down to that freed me massively in comedy. I started trying new stuff. Started taking the guitar on stage, and I'd do stuff where if I was hosting, I'd learn about the audience in the first 2 sections, and I'd write a song about them by the third. And that's quite brave, stepping out and playing a song that no one's ever heard. You haven't even played it through once. You've literally got it written down. But because I think this audience will never be in this spot again, they'll never see me again, as in like they might come and watch one of my shows, but it doesn't matter if it works or not, because you're good enough to get back up there and do it again or do so. So once you've learned that, and I see so many similarities between comedy and fighting, and once you've narrowed that down and taken that shit out of your mind, that white noise, there's a lot of freedom that comes with that mentally when you've realised what's important and what's not.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you should mention that, because obviously I've got to think that anybody who ever tunes into my podcast would be a fan of fighting, would be a fan of, me to a sense. Like maybe, they
sexy
like
men with beards. That's what
or maybe the fact that I'm just that guy that, speaks first and thinks later. But they, a lot of them have got to have listened to, say, someone like Joe Rogan. I think he basically ticks all the boxes on the professional level for that.
Sure.
For the kind of people that we're affiliated with, mutually. And he were talking to Chris D'Elia, I think, a recent one. And he was talking about, getting on stage. And there were Brendan Schaub as well on the most recent fight companion one.
Sure.
And he was talking to them both, and I can't remember, I can't pick, which one he said what to, but he was talking about how, everybody bombs on stage. Everybody bombs on stage. You name a comedian, they're bombed.
100%.
And that's that there for him, even he's done both, he's fought, he's a comedian. Yeah. And he says bombing on stage is the hardest thing he's ever gone through. Because you go back to that club, that local club or something, you're back in front of that same crowd that are expecting you to bomb because you've already bombed.
Yeah, and also the promoter will be a bit get wary, like you had a shit gig last time. And it's all there, mate. It's all there. Oh, God, I've just started giving me sweats thinking about it.
But, it's all part of learning the craft. And this is, not to swing it right back, but to tie a few similarities together. I talk to amateur fighters nowadays, and they want to go pro after 2 fights. And I think Mo Zubair, I've been talking to him a couple of times out Renegade.
Oh, yes. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, he's an amateur. And I said, mate, don't rush it. You're learning your craft right now. Yeah. And you could take, as a comedian, you could bomb so many times. Okay? But look at Rogan. He bombed so many times, now he's doing arenas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You lose so many times as an amateur, it all goes back to the level playing field when you go pro. Yeah, I know amateurs that have had losing records that have gone on to be the best pros that there is.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And it's similarities across any sport, hobby, profession. You've got to, and I think that's what fighting did for me, is it developed that thick skin. Yeah. Because instead of getting beat up and butthurt about the fact that, somebody's laughing at me or someone's saying this or someone's saying that, I thought to myself, right, okay, how do I avoid that next time?
Yeah, sure.
Try something else. Try something that I haven't tried before. Maybe take a bit of that and add it to a bit of this. You know what I mean? And just build brick by brick, build this wall from a solid foundation. And then I got something to kind of, put on show by the end of it, hopefully, and say, right, this is what I've been working towards.
Yeah. Experience it's all the cliches you want, mate. It's invaluable. Like you can't put a value to it, but you know it when you've got it. When you've got that experience, and you can, and whether that's stepping into a fight and fighting somebody with a certain skill set, or whether it's going on stage and facing an audience that isn't set for comedy, like might be full of stag and hen do's, or you might be. You might have a bad microphone or a bad sound system or bad lighting or whatever it might be. Or the compare might have been absolute shit and ruined the room, and you've got to deal with it. It happens.
Cheers, mate.
I've seen it. I've seen rooms that I believe are unplayable, and then I've watched a pro go up, and they set it. They figure it all out. They deal with those over there. They suddenly get the room focused, and they take all these, and they're all tricks. They're all bits that they've learned from years and years of getting it right and getting more to the point, getting it wrong. And that's the same with fighters. There's a load of fighters out there who are itching to go pro. Like, I want to get on there. I want to get spotted by these. I want to get some management. I want to do all this. And you just think, just take your time sometimes. Just take your time.
Yeah. That's it. Take your time. Be you. If you touch a hot iron.
Find out who you are. That's the other thing. Because I've seen fighters. I'm lucky enough to commentate on a lot of the UK shows as well, and you see the amateur scene, and you see these little when you see a spark of something in a fighter, and then the next time they come back, they've got another set of skills, and the next time they come back, they're even walking different. There's a different air about them, and you think that's brilliant. You've got the right coaches around you. You're doing the right things. You're picking the right fights to help yourself develop, and that doesn't mean you're going to win everyone.
No,
you're putting in against the ones that are going to test you. If you're a great striker, you're going in there against a wrestler. That takes some guts for a coach and a fighter to say, let's see how good I am. Let's see what I got to learn.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. The only way you're going to learn it, you might spar and you might do this, you might do that, but live fighting, when it's there and it's happening, and the crowd and there's the pressure and something's happened within the fight that you can't have trained for, then it's how you react to it. But your reactions get better the more experience you get and the more experiences you have.
Yeah, definitely. I'll never be afraid. I can remember back to say 16 to 18-year-old me, I was always afraid to put a foot wrong, and I was this shell of a person. Now I'll never be afraid to fail again, because I think that making mistakes, failing, cocking up, whatever, it's almost the opening of a new path to go, right, okay, let's learn something new. You know what I mean? Let's rectify this. Let's put something right. You know, without those, you never put a foot wrong. You're never going to learn a thing in your life, and especially something, you know, you can get your people who are great, you know, bookworms. Yeah. They're great at school and stuff like that. You know, we could talk about that being smart. That is smart. But I think the most smart people, like, and not to mention him too much, but Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan doesn't come across as somebody who is the most academically smart person out there. But the thing that gets me about him is how smart he is to be able to listen to somebody else's opinion, to be able to then share his opinion, to then be able to reciprocate their reply to, you know what I mean? And he's got good common sense. He's got great common sense, and he's smart in that aspect.
Sure, because he can hold a conversation with a comedian, who's a road comic or whatever, right up to Elon Musk, or Neil Tyson deGrasse, or whatever. And I think that the thing that with Joe Rogan, and this is a skill, this is something, and you find it with people, and no, you don't find it very often with people. It's whether he agrees with somebody or not doesn't stop him making the conversation enjoyable for both people. Yeah, he finds a way of it's an art keeping a conversation going. It's one of these things that, and you see him, and like with people that I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan as well, and they're 3 hours long, and there's points where I'm like, I'm sick of this person. Like, this is grating on me a little bit, the way he's answering, his opinion on that. You never feel that rise out of Joe Rogan. No. There's been times where he's sort of had a little intellectual clash with people, and it has got emotional, but it's very, very rare in that respect. But the way he has opened up, like, he is now classed as one of the most influential people on the planet. His like political parties were scared when Bernie Sanders, was it Sanders, the American politician, was getting...
He's just pulled out.
Yeah, he's just pulled out, but they were worried because the amount of influence that Joe Rogan has, and the fact that Joe got him on the podcast, and now movie people go to see. Like, you see people sitting down to plug a movie with that guy because of who he is.
Yeah, but you saw the actual fear. I mean, I'm not too up on politics. I know what I need to know. And quite frankly, if I was ever going to get into comedy, I'd probably know a little bit more about politics. But it definitely the butt of all my jokes. But yeah, I'm not too up on it. But what he does mention, and I've had a look at it as well, is like when he got Bernie Sanders on his podcast, how they started to pick and choose certain parts of his podcast, you know, like to make him look like somebody who approves, I don't know, child abuse or, you know, anything along those lines, because they were terrified. Like, okay, let's really shrink this Joe Rogan down now so it doesn't matter. You know, it backfired tremendously because Joe's like, whatever, I don't even look at my comments.
Well, that's the beauty of it as well, isn't it? How to get to that position, and to think, like, I saw they posted his first ever UFC when he was doing the backstage interviews. I saw some social media. In fact, it might have even been the UFC who posted it, and he's there, and he's skinny Joe Rogan, not hench. He's obviously still fit, and so young looking. But you think from there to what he's gone to now, like he for me, I remember I've said this before to some other people, but I remember being on it was after a bad set of gigs at a weekend club, like a really big weekend club in Birmingham, and I had some bad gigs, and I was sat on the train platform, and a comic who had been at another set of gigs in Birmingham came and said hello, and said, "You all right?" And I said, "Oh, mate, I fucking died on my ass this weekend. Both nights, all 3 nights, I just didn't hit, just couldn't get it going, and just felt a little bit lost." And I think he sensed it, and I remember that I'm very grateful to this guy, because he kind of said to me, well, think about a comic that you would like to be like. What's if you picture your favorite comic or somebody who's got the career that you would like, who is it? And I couldn't answer him, and I was like, I got no idea. And it was like 2-3 days later, and I suddenly went, well, obviously Joe Rogan. Like, he does comedy, he does commentary on my favorite sport, and it was that point after that I decided to start the Stand Ups Throwdown podcast. So it was that bad set of gigs meeting this one person, and you never see. It's very rare that you'll travel with a comic. You're very lonely.
Yeah.
You bounce around, but that one little moment in time, and I remember, and I thought, do you know what? That's it. So that gave me a little kick up the butt to think, what can I do? I'll do a podcast, and then from there, that's changed my world as far as what I do with MMA. So Joe Rogan for me is like, if I ever saw the guy, I'd probably kiss him square on the lips, mate.
No, not before you get tested first. He's got people testing at his door, hasn't he? And he's inviting people around who need the test, and it's like,
what a mad fucking. I mean, he is a beautiful human, but how crazy is that in this world that you can be that loaded that you've got a fucking COVID-19 test doctor
I know.
on your doorstep for anybody who wants to come and do it. Mad.
And he don't stop there for me. It seems like with Joe Rogan fanboys.
Mate, I 100% am. 100% am. Yeah.
But he got that lady who she was a boxer or something, and she had the ACL tear and couldn't afford the surgery.
Oh no, it was the winner of Tough, the female ones. So she won the I'm sure it was that. So she's a UFC fighter. It was a knee ACL tear, and he paid, I think, $33,000 to have her stem cell treatment and
go to her doctor
and go
to his doctor
in Las Vegas. Flew her out there and got her fixed because she torn and just couldn't afford to pay for it. So what a guy, mate! What a
dude. We're going to have a Joe Rogan national holiday someday. But anyway, pal, so we've probably bypassed this point anyway, but, we're all on lockdown. We're enjoying the family time and stuff like that. I'm seeing you throw out some of your comedy, which for me, you can throw out a bit more. I'm loving it. What are you going to be doing from now until, let's say, freedom. From now until freedom? What's going to keep the Bryan Lacey, that's going to stick, by the way, the Bryan Lacey, what's going to keep you sane?
Oh, the other one's from upstairs. Sorry, thank you. For me, I'll obviously keep doing the comedy because I've got time now to do it. So I'll probably do a couple more songs. But for me, do you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the family time, mate. Yeah. Try not to stress about all the other bollocks that comes with it, because lockdown has its own issues. There's my two worlds I work in, so comedy and MMA are both events. So there's where you have an audience. So there's none of that happening. There's no gigs happening around the world, not just in this country.
Yeah.
Thank you. But so I'm about to change headphones because these ones are about to die on me.
Oh, no problem, pal.
But what I would probably do is I'm loving homeschooling, man. I don't know what you're like with this, but Alice is 6. I'm thanking God she's not 14 or 15, and I'm trying to deal with that level of maths. I can do it when we're on the 2 and 3 and 4, 5 times table at the minute. But but I'm loving it. Like, we're spending quality time together. We do that in the morning. We do the fitness thing with the Joe Wicks. So do you know, the main thing, if I sum it all up, the main thing I'm going to try not to do is stress about the other shit that could be sat in your mind or whatever else with lockdown. That's the main thing, I think. What about you? How are you finding homeschooling?
So homeschooling for me, so the mum's a teacher. She takes care of the majority of that. You'd think so. You'd think so. But I'd read with them. She's got a work rota where for a week, every 3 weeks, she'll go in. They've got like a bit of a skeleton rota going on for the essential workers, the key workers, their kids and so on. So she'll go in, and that's when, we get daddy school on. We learn about
is it PE as in fit for 20? That's it.
Yeah, it could be. We do a bit of reading. My 4-year-old, he's still in nursery, and I did his sound cards with him yesterday, just with like letters and stuff like that, and he smashed them in 20 seconds, like every letter and sound that there was. He's got up to a point where he's sounding out like jumping and puddles, and I'm like, dude, you're 4. He's reading books to me.
There you go.
I couldn't ask for smart kids. Like I said, I'm still trying to look for their biological father because it's in me. We've got these internet things that have been sent out by the schools, and the teachers have been great. They've called the kids, arranged calls to call them, see how they're doing. Still posting stuff up on Facebook for them. So there's a lot of reward there for them. I'm just kind of like taking this time to. I'm loving being around my children. I'm loving being around my children. I work, like I do the school run in the morning, but then I work in the evening. She gets back home. She does the tea, the bath, and blah. You know what I mean? And it's nice to kind of do things that I don't usually do.
Yeah.
And this podcast, it's been sitting on the end of my tongue for about a year now.
And I think this is a good thing because loads of people always say you don't have the time. I don't have the time. I'm doing this and that. This is when we've got the time to do that. Like this sort of shit. I've got to ask though, mate. Like, listen, I've got to ask, and I know we've been personal as far as family and all that. But listen,
I'm ready.
Right, brace yourself. Be honest with me as well. Is there a little bit of Tiger King role play going on in your house? Because there's some leopard print stuff.
Talking about my dressing gown.
Is that your? Is that your dressing gown? Oh, mate, no shame in your game. Look at that. Now I'm just picturing you wandering down shades on that.
Yeah.
What's the pink thing hanging over there? Is that just like a pocket handkerchief you stick in there, or what is that?
Oh, no, I think I just chucked that over there earlier because I couldn't get into what was my office is now the, like the equivalent of a man drawer. And women always kick off about the man drawer, and then women have that one big room.
That one room, mate.
Yeah. That's become that.
Nice.
I can't say it's hers, though, because it is all my exercise stuff, so...
Oh, well, fair play.
I'm a nightmare, mate. I'm a nightmare. But,
men just gather shit, though. That's what we do, though. Yeah. That's what we do. And that is your job. That is your life, isn't it, really?
That's pretty much it, yeah. I mean, I could have probably worked out a few more times than I have done, but it's nice to see the world from a totally different perspective now. Mate, yeah. It's I know we're talking on iPads and laptops, and I've clearly got this super cool gaming headset on, but it's stripped us back down to what we'd class as basics today.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the things that we took for granted, like going to work, like doing this, that, and other, it's gone. Okay. So what can you do with all this stuff that you neglect on a daily basis?
Yeah, sure.
Like I hadn't touched my iPad in God knows how long. My kids do it. They do you know what I mean? And and now I found a use for that. My PC, it weren't used for anything other than games and stuff like that. Sure. Now all of a sudden, I'm running schoolwork, my work, everything from it. Just getting out in the yard and spending a bit of time in the yard. When was the last time that I got to spend a bit of time in the yard?
Yeah.
And I'm loving it because this is stuff now. It's forced us to basically, okay, we can mourn about what we've lost, or we can look at what we've got. If we look at what we've got, this is kind of things that, like lessons and feelings that we're not just going to forget about when they say, okay, things are open. We're going to find a way to take that into our life.
That's it. I hope, because like you talked about a lot of the positives that I feel from this. There's like that family time. Me and my wife been on the same body clock, so we're going to, like, me not just being a night owl, and we go to bed at the same time, we get up at the same time, we have a family breakfast. We've never, like with the weather as well, we've never used the garden as much. We're out there and making use of that. Our family walks as well. We do that together. We go and we do all that. And also what you notice as well is people, like when you go past people now, and I'm from up north, and everyone says hello up north, but down south it's not common. Whereas now people say, hello, how are you? Or if there's an old couple walking, they're giving the distance, but people are speaking to them or whatever. And I hope there's those little bits, those little gems that we hang on to, because it's shit what's happening out there, mate. It's horrible, and it's affecting people very directly across the world. I know people all over the world that have been affected in different ways, and some are really struggling. But there is a lot of good that is in this, and if it's skinning us back and making us just go, do you know what? Sitting here and like me and my daughter did a little craft thing yesterday, and you make something with her, or it's just those little moments. That's what we got to. And I hope they don't just disappear.
No.
I hope when it does open, and you kind of forget the pain of something. Like people talk about pregnancy and all that sort of stuff, and but I just hope that in 3, 4, 5 months' time, after the lockdowns lift and we're we're back to the grind and whatever we're doing. I hope there are still those moments where we appreciate what this has shown us, because it's great.
And I think on the grand scheme of things that you always think about, if it all broke down, who would I have? What would I have? I think a lot of us have found out that when it all breaks down, we're pretty damn lucky, really.
Yeah.
What are we, okay, there's a few things that we could do with, like maybe, earning a little bit more money or something to see us on. But
food would be nice, wouldn't it?
Toilet roll. I mean, that's gone out of fashion again now.
What was that as well, mate? What
man.
Fuck was that?
They all saw Danny Mitchell's toilet roll defense videos and wanted a piece of it, didn't they?
That is it. Maybe it's the man Danny Mitchell's thing, but that was madness. All these little, how crazy it was. And we set that off in America as well. So everybody started. There wasn't a thing in America where people were buying a lot of toilet roll, and then they saw that we were doing it.
Yeah.
So then people copied, and it's just like, what are we doing? What's going on, mate? What are you doing?
It's payback for them setting off. What is it? Black Friday. Over here, we've set off toilet roll gate in America now, so 1-1.
Wow, mate, wowzers.
Oh man. Anyway, pal, I've absolutely loved every second of this.
You're my first
awesome video one. It's just been.
The best. You gave me about 10 seconds to get ready for this one. So luckily, I'd had a shower today. And,
yeah, man. I've only got this headset on some years back, mate. I'm
naked from here down, though, mate. I am naked and very hairy, so let's just leave you with that image.
I'm just glad I got to witness that. So anyway, thank you very much, Brian.
Hey, stay safe as well, mate, and good to speak to you at any time. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, pal.
Big love.
And
take care, and go see if those kids that invaded earlier are all right. All right.
I might stay up here.
Take care. Mate. See you later. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.